Okay, I will call to order this meeting for the Newmarket County Council for Tuesday, June 20th. Looking across the board here, looks like we do have quorum. We are missing Ms. Hannah, Mr. Watkins, and Mr. Weimer. So we do have quorum. If all will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I do want to welcome everybody here, all of our guests as well. Thanks for taking the night and sharing with us. Council, you've had the agenda, the consent agenda, but go with the agenda first. If there's no questions on the agenda, I will accept the motion to accept the agenda.
I will refer to the agenda.
Do you have a motion? Do I have a second? Do you have a second? And is there any discussion on this motion? Having none, let's see, Donna?
Steve, please, all in favor?
All in favor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None, the motion has passed, the agenda is approved. Consent agenda. Council, I'll usually read over all the minutes, but you all have been very busy this past 6 weeks. So I'm not going to read every one of those. You have had those minutes, you've looked over the consent agenda. Is there any questions on the consent agenda? And if there isn't, I will accept a motion to accept the consent agenda. Second, and any discussion on that motion? Having none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That motion has passed on the consent agenda. And at that point, we'll move into our public hearing. But first, Mr. Walters, do you want to lead us into it, or?
Yeah, Ms. Green has a quick presentation just discussing the public hearing about the financing for the public works facility. She can share with everybody.
Yeah, we're just getting it pulled up here. In the actual house.
Good evening, Teresa.
Good evening. All right. The public hearing tonight is going to be on a proposed financing for the maintenance building. The town of Newmarket wishes to pursue financing for public purposes to include planning, design, sitting, landscaping, construction, equipping, and fencing for a maintenance building on town property and related administrative and financial costs. Sorry.
No, you're good, Teresa.
The town will fund the project through a general obligation bond. Tax treatment will be a tax exempt and bank qualified. The principal amount will not to exceed $845,000. The term will be 20 years with the final maturity date proposed to be June 1st, 2043. The town will be working with VML VACO to pursue this financing. The lender will be selected through a competitive RFP process. The principal will be due annually on June 1st, commencing on June 1st, 2024, and interest will be due semi-annually on June 1st and December 1st, commencing on December 1st, 2023. Now, this is all tentative. depending on when everything gets closed and so forth, but that's the proposal right now. So just the preliminary analysis that they worked up for us, the par amount is $840,000, and the interest amount is based on an interest rate of 5.3%. That actual rate will be determined once it goes through a competitive request for proposal process. And the total amount does include financing the VML VACO finance fees and the estimated bond counsel fees. So does anyone have any questions?
Council? Having none, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this project. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak? Having none, I will close the public hearing. At this time, citizens' comments. If there's anybody here that wishes to speak, now's the time to say so. And again, Todd, do we have any emailed in to us?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's go to our staff reports, and JD, if we can start with Public Works. Welcome back.
Good evening. Thank you. For distribution system, we repaired a 2-inch water main in front of 9184 John Seaver Road. Collection system, there was nothing to report. Public Works additional projects, large trash pickup was 5.5 tons this time. New playground mulch completed on the south end playground. New piece of exercise equipment is installed at the park. We finished that today. It's open and ready for use. Regular monthly maintenance, cleaning of park restrooms at the shelter, street and sidewalk maintenance, mowing of all town properties, cleaning of restrooms and trash cleanup at Rebel Park for Rebels baseball. For the water department, replace the drive fan pump number 3 at Norfolk Pump Station. Lead and copper sample site revisions with VDH. Working with contractors on sewer repair, John Seaver Road and Congress Street. Installed a new mag meter on raw water line at the water plant. Johnny and I started working on asset management business plan. Picture didn't show up, but we had 2 of the maintenance guys went to Shinko summer kickoff event at Martytown at the Center County Park this past Friday. They estimate like between 1,000 and 1,500 people. Is that right, Chris? They actually had a line from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock of little kids ages from 4 to 11, 12 getting on the excavator. They took our mini excavator down. They was actually able to dig in the dirt. They said a couple of good prospects for later down the road. Any questions?
Council, any questions or anything? None. JD, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, our planning department monthly report, Mr. Walters.
I don't have a slide, so I don't have much to. We did approve a zoning permit for a patio at 276 T Court. That was the only permit approved since y'all last met. We do have a couple of permits in review right now. As you know, we did hold a public hearing for Courtyard Terrace. There were several people that spoke. The Planning Commission did table their recommendation until July, their July meeting. Their July meeting is scheduled for July 3rd, Monday, July 3rd. We were questioned, was we going to have enough to actually have that meeting? I've sent an email out, and based on our responses, that meeting may get pushed to July 10th now. With the 3rd, before the 4th, there's a few people that's going to be out of town, just won't be here. And then, of course, the 4th is on Tuesday, so we would have to push it till the 10th. And that's all I have as far as planning and zoning.
Any questions, Council? Yep. Thanks, Todd. Next, public safety monthly report. Chief Rinker.
For the month of May, there was 394 calls for service for the month. Total calls for service for the year, 1,888. 152 extra patrols, 14 foot patrols, and 1 facility K-9 event. Just a few notable events. May 9th through the 11th, I attended a 3-day law enforcement officer suicide awareness train the trainer program in Salem, Virginia, hosted by DCJS. We'll have to go back at some point to finish that process. May 20th, Police Department provided police presence during the Jamin Food Fest. May 24th through the 26th, Sergeant Smoot attended Red Dot instructor training at the Central Shenandoah Criminal Justice Training Academy. All of our firearms are equipped with Red Dot optics now. May 6, 2023, Benelli and I attended the Woodstock Public Safety Day. This is a different event than JD talked about. For the month of May, we're on average, nothing really is out of ordinary. Traffic offenses are up, and traffic related stuff is up. It's just the flow of traffic right now. 1 misdemeanor arrest, 1 DUI arrest, 1 ECO TDO. We were at the hospital for roughly 24 hours, I believe, and ended up going to Salem, Virginia, Catawba. I would just like to bring this to your attention. It's with great sadness that we announced the passing of former Chief of Police Charles Peary. On June 19th, Chief Peary passed away. Chief Peary started as an auxiliary officer and was then hired as a full-time law enforcement officer with Town and Newmarket in April 1994 and retired in June 2015. Chief Peary was a great leader, a husband, brother, and someone who truly cared about his community. I can't tell anybody how much this man means to me and what he's done for me in my career. Thought about it all day. Mayor, if we could just take a brief moment of silence in respect to Chief Peary, I would appreciate it.
And Chief, I'll let you lead us right into that. If we will take a moment for silence for memory of Chief Peary. Thank you.
My very first shift was with Charlie. July 1st, 1999. I remember it like it was yesterday. He was a tough guy, but inside he had a huge heart and he truly cared about people. There will be a service this weekend on Sunday. So if you're available, please come. Is there any questions?
Council? None? Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Next is our Events and Marketing Monthly Report. Ms. Amber Swim.
Good evening, Council. All right. The one thing I'll start with, it's not up here because for whatever reason I was thinking we already discussed it, but time goes by really fast and lots of things happen. So I don't think that I brought up Jammin' Foods Fest last time because it was before Jammin' Foods Fest. It was a great turnout, even though the rain, it was supposed to rain all evening. It looked horrible. I had some food vendors back out because they were worried about it. But it ended up only pouring down rain for about 5 minutes, and then it gave way to a very beautiful evening, and we had a wonderful turnout. All of my food vendors couldn't keep up. I kind of felt bad. I don't like people having to wait in line that long, but can't do anything when people back out. So, but they did a great job. They all sold out. The bands were wonderful. So couldn't ask for a better day. So we figure we had 600 plus throughout the evening. Then next up was movie night in the park. So since our last meeting, we've actually had 2. We had Luca. We had an attendance of approximately 95 to 100. for that movie. And then we just had last weekend the other movie night in the park for June, which was Top Gun Maverick, and we had roughly 80 in attendance. And I will say those new speakers were fantastic to watch that movie. Just saying, if you didn't watch it, you're missing out. So the next things up are Crossroads Music Fest. Our first one is this Friday on June 23rd. Prime is playing, so that'll be our kickoff day for this summer series. Remember, we do not have one in July. We are skipping that hot, horrible weather, and we just moved that one to October. And then the next event after that coming up is going to be our Independence Day celebration on July 5th. Starts at 5, fireworks at 9:20. We've got a wonderful evening planned, a lot of activities, a great band, and a good food lineup too. So tell your friends and your family, we need everybody to come out. Other projects, so the birthday program that we were working with the Merchants Committee, that is up and running. They all have their window clings and their birthday cards to give out to the folks that want to participate. Working with Fall Fest, 'Tis the Season, and Latin Fest committees and planning the upcoming events. It's been really nice and refreshing to have these different committees and the different input and people that want to help is fantastic. Virginia Main Street program administrative tasks are being accomplished on the back end. And then, of course, just working with lots of different other things going on. There's not enough slides for me to talk about that. So, questions?
Yeah, Amber, again, we know that you glossed over a whole lot. We realize there's a whole lot happening, so again, thank you.
Well,
So, council, that leads us now into our action items, which again is a lot. We'll start off with action item number 1, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 124, the adoption of state law. And in our packet, that can be found on page 30, I believe. So, Todd, would you want to lead us into?
I'm gonna let Mr. Ham lead you in.
Okay.
This is our annual passing of this ordinance, just to keep up with all the changes that have been made during the year.
So the town, you've done this every year for many years on our recommendation, the town code adopts by reference state laws that change every July 1st. And those state laws particularly pertain to drunk driving and other traffic and streets laws. And so the General Assembly makes changes to those every year, and we need to incorporate those into our town code. That's something that the county does as well and others.
Any questions for Mr. Ham? Hearing none, I will open it for a motion on ordinance number 124.
Make a motion to accept ordinance number 124.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Having a second, any discussion on the motion? I have to say, this is strange, not looking to my right for validation or input here. So with that, if there is none, I will have a roll call vote.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey. Yes.
And just for the moment, again, Ms. Hannah had a death in the family, and Mr. Watkins is ill. So again, I can promise you this council is usually full staff and ready to work. So again, so number 1 is complete. Number 2 on the action item is discussion and consideration of ordinance 125, the adoption of the annual budget for the fiscal year 2023 and 2024. You want to say anything or just answer any questions?
We can answer any questions, but you did have your public hearing last week and nobody was here to speak, and it's, you had the budget in your packet and the ordinance was also there. If you do have any questions, we as in Teresa will try to answer them.
Council, any questions for Teresa or Todd? No? So I will entertain a motion on this subject.
I move that we pass ordinance number
125.
And do I have a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Moore?
Mrs. Harkness?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
So number 3 on the action items, council with discussion and consideration of ordinance number 126, an ordinance increasing the not to exceed amount on consumer utility taxes. Todd, you want-
Correct. So the budget you just passed has increases in the consumer utility taxes on the residential for electric service. It'll go from, this is the maximum, so it can't exceed this. It will go from $1.50 to $3, and then the non-residential consumer for electric service will go to $10 to $50, increasing the monthly amount not to exceed amount. For gas service for a residential consumer will also go from $1.50 to $3, and also on the non-residential from $10 to $50. And this is the cap. This is the highest it can go.
And council throughout that consent agenda on the minutes, obviously we discussed this quite thoroughly, so if there's no discussion on this, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the town of Newmarket tax and service rates as proposed.
And that would be ordinance number 126. Is that correct? A second, and any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, Ms. Laura?
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mrs. Harkness?
Yes.
The motion has passed. Next on the action item number 4 is our discussion consideration of the ordinance number 127, an ordinance imposing a 6% increase in both in-town and out-of-town water and sewer user rates. And Todd, I know we've discussed this a lot as far as council, but if you will.
Yeah, and you have in your pocket or in your packet, not your pocket.
Don't confuse that.
Yes. What the new rates will be. So for the monthly rates in town, on the minimum charge, it's currently $17.50. It will go with the 6% increase. It'll go to $18.55, and then for over the 1,700 gallons, for every 1,000 gallons, it goes from $7.20 to $7.63. Out of town is the minimum is $26.25. It'll go to $27.83, and then for every 1,000 over the 1,700, it goes from $10.80 to $11.44. The sewer rates in town, current rate $32.90. It'll go to $34.87, and that's on the minimum. And then over the 1,700 minimum, for every 1,000 gallons, it goes from $16.01 to $16.97. And then on the out of town, for the minimum, it goes from $57.58 to $61.03. And then over the 1,700, for every 1,000, it's $28.02. It goes to $29.70. And these rates would be effective July 1st. I wasn't here during the budget presentation, but I don't believe your water and sewer rates have been raised since COVID. And with the cost of inflation and everything it costs the town now to provide these services. I mean, I believe that's how and plus you did get an increase from Broadway to send the sewer.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay.
You did.
And again, council, questions for Todd on this? I know, again, we discussed it at length. So again, I'll move to a motion if somebody wants to put forth one.
Make a motion to accept ordinance number 127, declaring the town of sewer.
Do you have a motion? And I do have a second through Peter. Any discussion on that motion? And again, having none, Ms. Laura?
Mrs. Harkness?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Motion has passed. Next, number 5, discussion and consideration of resolution number 249, a resolution authorizing the reimbursement of capital expenditures, the VML and VACO. Again, Todd, you want to?
Yeah, so that was what you had the public hearing on earlier for the cost of the Public Works facility. This will allow you to be reimbursed for stuff that the town has already paid out within the last 60 days, correct, Teresa? In the last 60 days. And then we will go, now that Teresa and I will be talking to them about now moving forward with the process. Once we have proposals back before we sign it, then there'll be another public hearing. Is that correct?
I don't think there's another public hearing, just be a resolution.
A resolution for the loan amount. Not to exceed the $845 to finance the project, and that is for 5 years, or 20 years.
Questions? None? Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but this has been discussed and picked apart throughout our meetings. So I will entertain a motion for resolution number 249.
I move that we approve resolution number 249 for the town of Newmarket to issue the general obligation bond preparation documents and connection.
I do have that motion. Do I have a second? I do have a second. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Laura?
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mrs. Hartnett.
Yes,
Motion has passed. Next, and number 6 on our action items is discussion and consideration of the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation's request. Todd, before the representative speaks, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'll just follow up that in May, the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields did send a letter of request in asking for certain parcels. They're trying to get those into a conservation easement. These parcels are the parcels, I'll let Mr. Owen speak more, but it will be the parcels of the museum property that they bought on George Collins Parkway. I think it's 3 parcels there. And then the parcel downtown, which is known as Dr. Stauffer's office. They have purchased that now, and that parcel is also included. Mr. Owens is here to answer any questions or prepared to give you a brief overview of what they're asking for.
Mr. Owens, if you don't mind, if you can step up to the microphone. Your first name?
Jack.
Jack?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jack. We do have the letter, council, of course, that's on page 88 of our package. But if you will, Jack, we're going to listen and you tell us what you're asking.
Yeah, so you all should have packets. There's 2 laminated or nicely printed. Yep. So you can kind of just set those first 2 folded items to the side. What you'll see on top is our letterhead. That was a letter that was dropped off on May 23rd. That's that request. Behind that is the example that we mentioned in the letter that Shenandoah County had submitted. And it's basically the same one we're requesting from the town. It's just a compliance with the comprehensive plan. And then with that first, the doctor's office structure that we purchased back in 2022, I believe. So that's one of the parcels in consideration that we're going to place under easement. That would remain a commercial property. We've already renovated 2 floors of that, and they're serving as apartments. And then within that, and we can reference back to that that first budget amendment we had set in there, and that was something we worked with through the legislature a year and a half ago, and that'll include $4.75 million that was sent to the Battlefields Foundation. 25% of those funds are going to be used here in Newmarket, in the Newmarket area, and that's already getting put to use at that structure on Congress Street. And what you see on the other side of that, the other side of the tax map, is the structure and its historic appearance when it was constructed in the 19th century. and that's what we hope to return it to. So it's about $1 million renovation investment we'll put into that structure on Main Street. And that'll renovate the first floor, which will serve as a very similar use to what our headquarters building on Congress Street now serves as a visitor center / gift shop. So that'll still serve as a commercial use. And then moving on to the parcels on George Collins Parkway. This is all clumped together in the same easement application we're submitting. The 3 parcels, the Bracken Museum, the Newmarket Battlefield Military Museum, those would remain as a commercial use as well. We hope to continue to use that as a destination for folks to come to Newmarket and visit as a tourism site. And then we included the 5-acre chunk that tax ID 103A69. That's that one you see highlighted on that map as well. That's included in there to give this, the Battlefields Foundation has owned that property for a number of years, and we're throwing that in this request for an easement to give it more of a chance to get approved. We're sacrificing those development rights to get preserved. So, and that'll allow us to keep those other parcels in commercial use. And then just the other documents behind it are some maps of the Battle of Newmarket, if you're wondering where the George Collins Parkway property is, and then the other one on Congress Street's in town. So our request is just the same as the letter states, that it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. So nothing's really changing use-wise with the properties. They would just be protected.
And Jack, if I'm understanding right, Dr. Stoffer's property, the second and the third floor will remain rentals, apartment rentals, and the first floor is where you will have your visitor center.
Yeah, correct.
And sales.
Yep.
Okay. Council, questions for Mr. Ellis?
Jack, I'm a little confused about the use of the property for rentals.
Okay.
So you all are charging rent to boarders there, and is that correct?
Yeah, currently the second floor is being used as an apartment. It's currently being rented out. The second floor is used it's a little loft up there. We have, our folks, our donors and board members and trustees that stay there on occasion when they're in town.
We sort of went through the same thing on the property called the Parsonage, where it was preserved for purposes of turning it into a museum, which has never happened. And then it was rented to a family for use for a while. And it appears to be vacant right now. I don't really know. I haven't been close to it.
Yeah, that property was at the time unable to be placed under easement because we were trying to keep the structure on the property. But the easement holder, which was the Virginia Department of Historical Resources, we're not going to hold the easement if we kept the structure there. So during that time period, which you said we've had tenants in there and other things, we've been in discussions with DHR on the possibility of tearing down that structure. And we're looking for other grants to fulfill the payments of the property and everything like that. But our plan is to return that to just a green lot with some historic fencing and interpretive signage. So the plan is to demolish that house with the plans to make it a public use building with handicap accessibility and all those sorts of things, and also place the preservation easement on it. It wasn't going to be a possibility. This one, we've already been in discussions with the Department of Historic Resources. They want to see the property preserved. It served as a school in its original construction. So it's an exciting preservation opportunity there. It's not directly Civil War, but it goes along with the story. So, the stars are aligning with the easement holder and the grants as well. The money's there.
I just find it discomforting to have it receive some sort of future inability for any other purpose than the historic purpose, and then it have it used for rental properties in the meantime. In other words, it's taking it out of the hands of what would be purchaser from to become a resident of the town, and now it's being preserved through the easement for historical uses, but in fact being used for rental properties. That sounds to me, that's something that I'm not ready to support, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Can I know what type of rentals you have inside of the building? Is it short-term rentals?
No, that's just a long-term lease at the doctor's office. So not like Airbnb or short-term rental, nothing of that. It's a normal
It's an
apartment. Yeah,
Well,
correct.
1 floor is, right? Is
What's that?
your-
The one floor,
members
correct.
coming in using 1 floor.
Correct, yeah, the second floor.
Are there any questions, other questions for Jack?
Jack, to be clear about my position, I can support an easement the other properties down by the river and below the VMI facility. I'm not going to be able to support the use of Dr. Stocker's office in that manner. Would you have any interest in separating those two articles for tonight's purpose?
No, because our request is for the entirety, so I can't speak on separating.
I'm with you, Peter, and I do think we need our other council members. I think, just having the 3 others. But I'm concerned when we start putting easements on our main Congress Street area.
If I may, Jack, and maybe others in here can answer this question. In the second paragraph of your all's request, it says these easements will not prevent future sale or transfer of the parcels in question, and the Battlefield Foundation is not seeking special tax exemptions. So in other words, what we did, Todd, correct me, Peg, Paul has been on council longer than I, what we did for the Lutheran parsonage was to allow for that tax easement and that it could not be sold and developed. Am I right on that, Jason?
I'm sorry, I don't recall, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
That was my understanding. I'm not going to.
That is the normal, I guess, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind if I ask a question.
Oh, no, please.
Easy to remember your name because my oldest son is Jack, so hello. I've never heard of an easement that allows, a conservation easement that allows a sale, et cetera. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, I mean, we could, the Strayer House, let's take for instance, where our headquarters is, there's a conservation easement on that structure and the property. And tomorrow the Battlefields Foundation could sell it to another buyer, but that easement would still be in place. So that's my understanding is, the property could still be protected, but it wouldn't limit it from ever being sold.
Okay, so the easement is still in place. So it is meant to be.
It's in perpetuity.
Conservation the whole time.
The easement just stays in perpetuity.
Correct.
The new owner just has to agree to the same laws.
Yeah, that confused me too. So basically, yeah, it can be sold, but it's still only to be the conservation easement goes with it.
But the commercial properties, if they're zoned commercial, could still be, you could sell it. It has a conservation easement, but the way the letter reads, it could still be used for commercial purposes.
Correct.
Of any sort?
Whatever, I'm not familiar with the town's definition of
But
commercial
what
use.
you're,
The way,
based on the zoning.
correct.
Okay.
So the museum can still operate as, and all those parcels are zoned commercial, so
Right.
it wouldn't eliminate the tax, is my understanding, and that was a big thing we wanted to make sure it was clear in here. It wouldn't eliminate that.
And it doesn't eliminate the use based on the current zoning
Correct.
as it is business.
Correct.
So the downtown parcel is general business. That's B1. That's Dr. Stauffer's, which I don't have. Well, I do, but all the things that it could be used for. And then the two parcels where the museum they are actually B2, which allows, I guess, what is being done there. And then the other parcels, like the one that 16 or that AX and that 58, those two parcels are actually R1. I did verify through the comp plan that it's what they are being used for is really what the comp plan, and then in the future it does say that, conservation, or especially the open areas. And also, all of these properties, except I believe that 103A69, which is the wooded parcel that they've owned prior to purchasing the museum property, and and Dr. Stauffer's property, all of that does lie within our historic overlay district. All those properties are listed under the historic overlay district.
So where I sit is what Peter and Peg, and I think Bob, you've got to speak for you, that just not comfortable with having not enough information of what this does without having the other council's input. So if I have an understanding, we'd like to table that until we get more information. Okay. So I do have a motion to table this.
Second.
You have a second. Ms. Laura?
Mrs. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Motion passed. Jack, obviously, Kevin, I'm sure you all understand due diligence. Kevin mentioned that to us during our public hearing for annexation, that we need to do our due diligence. So council takes that very seriously. So if you can relate back to Kevin, and we individually would love to hear if he wants to stop by our homes or whatever, to kind of give us more information.
For sure. Yeah, we just ask that you hold on to these things because
Yep,
they definitely bring some light to our plans here. So hold on to them.
we'll do that.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you for your time. Okay, with that, that completes our action items. We get to the mayor's comments, and since we have such a longer meeting, I'm going to hold my tongue and say I have nothing to offer tonight. Council, how about yourself? Anything to say? No?
July 5th. Big event, New Market. Encourage everybody to go.
Be there. Aloha.
Be there or be square.
Okay. Yeah, looking forward to that. Staff comments. Todd, do you have anything?
Well, if you don't know, this is Miss Laura's last council meeting. She is moving on to brighter pastures, she says. I don't know how that could be possible, but so, Donna, hate to see you go. I left before you did, and I came back for just a little while, so maybe you'll do the same. But good luck to you. Thank you for everything you did for the town in general over 17 years. All the work that you put in. I tell people you can replace a person, but you can't replace what they take with them, and that's going to be the problem with Donna, is replacing her wisdom and her knowledge, no matter how small it may be. But anyway, but we will miss you. Thank you again for everything. Thank you for helping me for the time I was here, and to follow up on that, Miss Amber Smoot will now take Donna's place, and Amber will no longer be our events or the town's events and marketing coordinator. So there's a little bit of changing going on here within the town office, but everything works out. It always does. May not be exactly like we like it, but it will work out, and it's usually always for the best. So good luck, everybody, and we'll miss you, Donna. And also, happy birthday, Mr. Ham.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Today's your day?
Yeah.
Today?
Yeah, I think there may be cake later, but that's just a rumor I heard.
Yeah. And again, Donna, the going away party isn't next week. It was tonight with all these action items and minutes and, a busy schedule, the month of all those meetings. We appreciate the fact of how you're transitioning to work with Amber. The two of you make a great team, and I know it'll be a flawless transition. Yeah, thank you. Jason, would you like to bring up about the volunteer settle agreement now? Or
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do some auxiliary mayor's comments. So, as you know, we had the hearing in front of the Commission on Local Government in this very room, and they were to generate a report as to whether or not they approved of the draft revised or the draft amendment to the second amended voluntary settlement agreement. And which basically did three main things. The main thing was it allowed the town to replace the exhibit, which was the future land use map, with a less restrictive future land use map that would allow the development that is currently percolating around the place in town. The second thing it would do, because it's such a long drawn out process that I've explained to you guys a little bit, but I'll hit that again in a minute. We wanted to make it a little easier to amend it in the future. And so the second amendment was a revision to allow the town and the county, if the town and the county agree, and following the public hearing preceded by public notice, we could change Exhibit B again without having to go through the approximate year-long process that is the approval of the Commission on Local Government and then the approval of the three-judge court. The third change is a more general change to allow any amendment without going through that process. And I don't know what the future holds, but no one foresaw back in 2012 when this was entered into that we'd want to amend it. And so the Commission on Local Government has rendered their report. Here it is, big thick thing. And they are good with number one, which is changing the Exhibit B to B1, which is the most important thing for the immediate concern. They're okay with Amendment 2, which is allowing the town and the county jointly to further amend that future land use map. They want some changes to the idea that we can change it at all. And so they want some restrictions on that. And they also want some additional public notice and outreach before we do anything related to changing land use in the future growth area. So all of which is got to be put into a revised agreement, a draft of which I have been fiddling with, and we'll need to do a new joint resolution. And we would also need to draft, or I would need to draft an actual annexation ordinance because the statute says it's all done by ordinance. So it's possible, but looking not terribly likely that all of that's going to happen by your July meeting. It's possible that it will, which is why I'm talking about it today. So you're not surprised as to what that is, especially if you see it in the newspaper, because it has to be in the paper. It might end up getting pushed to August. I've talked to the county about this, and they have told me that the earliest possible date that they could deal with it would be the 27th of July, but I haven't finished drafting this stuff yet, and county's got to be okay with that as well. And so that's what's going on. We're in process. After that is done, we then have to impanel that three-judge court to get final approval. And so I would recommend that we adopted as many of these recommendations in this report as possible. Some of them a little bit legally problematic in terms of compliance. I want this the town and county attorney for it to be black and white as to what you have to do. You do A, B, and C, and you get D. And they've got kind of a lot more fluffy language about public notice that makes me comfortable because it's not entirely clear exactly what is required if you verbatim put what they had in here. So I'm fiddling with it. We'll get to a good place, I'm sure. And but again, the judges will look at this report when they are thinking about what to do. And I think I could certainly explain to the judge that verbatim recitation of things in this report don't work for various reasons. But that's a little bit of a delicate thing that I've got to organize. So that's what's going on.
Thanks.
Sure. Always, Jason, we appreciate the legal guidance.
Thank you.
So with that, council, we are now at a point of going into our closed session. Vice Mayor Harkness, if you would like to lead us into that.
I move to recess into a closed meeting in order to Discuss the performance and employment of specific local government personnel as authorized by section 2.2-3711A1 of the state code. The subject matter of the meeting is a specific local government appointee, the Newmarket Fire and EMS Chief. Discuss the hiring or appointment of specific public officers, appointees, or employees, and also authorized by section 2.2-3711A1 of the state code. The subject matter is the appointment of a Newmarket Fire and EMS Chief.
So I do have a motion, Council, do I have a second?
Second.
I do have a second, any discussion on that motion? And having none, Ms. Laura?
Mrs. Harkness?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
So we will take a 5-minute adjournment to go ahead and vacate the room, and then we'll go ahead into our closed session at 7:26.